My parents drained my college fund on my birthday and told me I wouldn't amount to much Reddit stories. They calmly explained they gave it to my brother instead because they didn't believe in my future. That moment rewired how I saw my family forever. Sup Reddit. I'm Billy, 21, and on my 17th birthday my parents sat me down in our living room and calmly told me they'd drained my entire college fund because, and I quote, "We didn't think you'd amount to much." That was the night I realized you don't need to be an orphan to grow up without parents. The night started normal enough: burned dinner, forced smiles, Noah noticeably absent. My brother always had plans. When anything wasn't about him. Mom kept glancing at Dad like they were passing the hot potato of guilt, waiting to see who would drop it in my lap. After dinner, Dad cleared his throat the way he always did before ruining something. "Billy, sit. We need to talk." Mom was picking at her cuticles so hard I thought she'd start bleeding. They wouldn't look at me, which was clue number 1 that I wasn't getting good news. Clue number 2 was Noah's empty chair, because he was involved somehow. He always was. Mom finally said, "Honey, we need to be honest with you." Never a sentence you want to hear when you're still wearing your birthday hat. Then she told me the college fund Grandpa had set up, $18,000 by last projection, was gone. Gone. Not misplaced. Not delayed. Gone like a magician's rabbit. Dad leaned forward, all serious authority he didn't deserve. "Your brother had a business opportunity. A startup. We invested." I blinked. "You gave my college fund to Noah?" Dad scowled like I was too stupid to appreciate visionary genius. "He needed seed money. Billy, the app is revolutionary. People can rent out their driveways for parking. It's called ParkSpot." I actually laughed. "There are already like 5 apps that do that." He waved his hand. "You don't understand markets." Right. I didn't understand markets. I just understood that $18,000 meant I could have gone to trade school instead of being handed a future shaped like a brick. Then Mom delivered the dagger she clearly rehearsed. "We didn't think you'd go to college anyway. You're more hands-on. Not book smart like Noah. We had to make a choice." Translation. Noah is the future. You are the spare tire. I didn't yell. Didn't cry. Didn't break anything, though the universe would have understood. I asked one question. "When did Noah's app launch?" Dad shifted uncomfortably. "He's still working on some kinks." "Yeah. Like learning what an original idea is." I nodded. "Cool. Thanks for letting me know." Then I stood up, walked to my room, closed the door, and sat in the dark. Not mourning. Planning. I knew right then. If I wanted a future, I'd have to build it with my own hands, because my family sure as hell wasn't going to. And over the next 4 years, I turned that betrayal into fuel. But that wasn't the shocking part. The shocking part is what happened when they came crawling back to me. I didn't sleep that night, not because I was sad, but because I was busy calculating survival like a kid doing homework for a class he was never meant to take. By 3 a.m. I had a full plan in a spiral notebook. Trade school instead of college. Welding certification costs, $10,000. Savings, $450. Timeline 18 months. Backup plan none. I wasn't dreaming big. I was dreaming real. Welding wasn't glamorous, but it was work people needed. It was a skill Grandpa respected. It was something I could build with my own hands, unlike Noah's imaginary app that apparently required thousands of dollars to exist in PowerPoint only. So at 7 a.m. Instead of nursing emotional wounds like a normal teen, I walked 3 blocks to Peter's auto body. Peter Hollenbeck was a Vietnam vet with a voice like gravel and hands stained black from 40 years of engine grease. He'd once let me watch him straighten a frame on a wrecked truck. I'd never forgotten the precision in his movements, like welding was surgery and he happened to be a metal doctor. He looked up when I walked in. "Why are you here, kid?" "I need a job. Anything. I'll sweep floors, clean toilets, scrub oil pans." Just hire me. He studied me longer than was comfortable. You're 17. You should be sleeping in. My family doesn't think I'm worth investing in, I said. So I'm investing in myself. Peter blinked once, grunted, and pointed toward the back. $7 an hour. You mess up, you fix it. You complain, you're gone? Brooms by the sink. I can start Monday. He tossed a greasy rag at my chest. You start now. And that was the beginning. The next 6 months were hell. School from 7 to 2:30. Shop from 3 to 8. Homework until midnight. Sleep 4 hours. Repeat until your muscles scream and your brain feels like scrambled eggs. My grades dropped from B's to C's because my teachers wanted reflection essays and group projects, not a kid with shop grease under his nails who was trying not to fall asleep on the textbook. Mom noticed. Billy, you're stretched too thin. Maybe quit the shop and focus on school. Translation. Quit trying. You're making us uncomfortable. Dad chimed in. He's playing mechanic instead of doing homework. Funny how I wasn't hands-on when it didn't benefit them. I gritted my teeth, ate peanut butter sandwiches alone in my room, and refused to quit. The moment I nearly broke came around month 3. I was sitting on a milk crate behind the shop, hands shaking from exhaustion, staring at nothing. Peter found me there and didn't say a word, just handed me a cup of terrible coffee and sat beside me. After a long silence, he said, First year I opened this place, I slept in the back. Ate canned beans until I swore I'd never touch them again. But I built something, and nobody could take it away. I didn't say anything. I just got up and kept working. It was the first time an adult looked at me and didn't see a disappointment. It wouldn't be the last. Because Peter wasn't the only one who believed in me. There was someone else, someone who would change everything. His name was Darnell. First time I saw him, I thought Peter had hired a linebacker to bend cars back into shape with his bare hands. Guy filled the doorway. Always smelled faintly of steel and burnt coffee. He rented a bay at the shop for side welding jobs, custom pieces, pipeline prep, heavy repairs. He noticed me one evening as I was practicing sloppy beads on scrap metal after closing. You trying to weld? He said. Or trying to invent fire again? I almost apologized on instinct. He shook his head. Relax. Come here. For the next 2 hours, he walked me through fundamentals. How heat travels. How to read puddle movement. How to prep edges so the weld doesn't betray you at the worst moment. How to avoid setting yourself on fire. Which you, my dude, are seconds away from doing. It was the first time anyone besides Grandpa had spoken to me like I had potential instead of problems. After that, Darnell checked on me regularly. Corrected my posture. Showed me how to TIG like I wasn't operating a twitching robot arm. Explained certification routes like a roadmap to freedom. And slowly, something happened. I stopped feeling like the backup kid. I started feeling like someone who could build a life. By month 4, Peter bumped my pay to $9 an hour. You work harder than the grown men I've fired, he said. I didn't cry. But I almost did when no one was looking. Meanwhile, at home, the atmosphere was turning swampy. Thick with tension, resentment, and the stench of Noah's entitlement. His startup still hadn't launched. The kinks were still kinked. The debt was growing. But somehow, he was still the genius, the chosen one. And I was still background noise. At least in their eyes. But not in mine anymore. By month 8, I had saved nearly $5,000. Enough to finally enroll in the community college welding program when I turned 18. Everything was lining up. Then Noah came home for spring break. Which meant one thing. He needed money. I walked in from the shop one evening, grease still on my face, and found him lounging on the couch in salmon shorts and boat shoes, because even his wardrobe thought it went to private school. He looked me over. Wow. You look like a raccoon that lost a fight with a carburetor. Thanks, I said. What do you want? He grinned like he was doing me a favor. I need 15 grand. Just to get the app across the finish line. Mom and Dad said you've been saving up. I stared at him. No. His smile slipped. Billy, think. This is an investment. I'll triple your money. No. You're being selfish. There it was. The family motto. I walked away. Locked my door. Listened to the shouts downstairs. Mom furious, Dad disappointed, Noah ranting about my lack of vision. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part came 1 week later. When my credit union called and asked, "Did you attempt to access your account from a VPN in New York?" No. No, I did not. Someone had tried to break into my savings using my social security number. And there was only one person in the world who knew my info and had already stolen from me once. My brother. That was the moment I realized something chilling. This wasn't sibling rivalry. This wasn't favoritism. This was predation. And the predator had just crossed into my territory. I froze my credit. Moved my money. Changed everything from passwords to bank accounts. But Noah wasn't done. Not even close. By the time I turned 18, I wasn't living with my parents so much as surviving around them. I ate in my room, showered at weird hours, kept my wallet and documents hidden like I lived with raccoons who knew how to use debit cards. Then came the breaking point. Dad cornered me in the kitchen at nearly midnight, me dead on my feet, still smelling like welding fumes. He crossed his arms, playing disappointed patriarch. "You've been real disrespectful lately." I didn't even look up from my peanut butter sandwich. "I'm tired, Dad. That job is making you stupid. Your grades are slipping. You're tearing this family apart." I laughed. Actually laughed. What family? The one that emptied my college fund? Or the one trying to hack my bank account? His jaw clenched. "We give you everything. A roof, food. That's parenting, not philanthropy." The silence that followed could have frozen magma. I walked past him without waiting for a comeback. 30 minutes later, I was scrolling apartment listings. 2 weekends after that, I moved out. No note. No explanation. Just my mattress, Grandpa's tools, a microwave, and the sudden realization that my entire life fit in a truck bed. The studio above the laundromat was $450 a month. Stained carpet, noisy pipes, vibrating floors from industrial dryers below. But it was mine. The first night, I sat on the floor eating tuna from the can and felt something I'd never felt before. Hope. The next 2 years blurred into grind mode. Finished my welding program. Passed AWS and 6G certifications. Landed a job with a structural steel crew. Went from $24 to $33 an hour. Bought a reliable truck with cash. Started saving for real. I met Maya after burning my arm during a rush job. She patched me up, told me I was either incredibly tough or incredibly stupid, and somehow agreed to see me again. Life, for the first time, was good. Meanwhile, my parents' universe was collapsing. ParkSpot officially imploded. Investors pulled out. Noah's partner bailed. City zoning laws killed the business model. Debt buried them. Dad became personally liable for a $25,000 loan. Mom's 401k was gone, tax penalty and all. Noah dropped out of grad school and moved back home, unemployed and increasingly desperate. I found out through my cousin, because I wasn't speaking to any of them. I didn't feel smug. Or happy. Just detached. They'd gambled everything on the golden child. And the golden child turned out to be spray-painted cardboard. 6 months later, the begging began. First a text. "We need your help. Just a few thousand. Please be reasonable. Mom." Deleted. Then she showed up at my apartment lobby. "Billy, we're drowning. You're doing so well, can't you help us just this once?" "No. We're your parents. You're the people who stole from me. Big difference." She left crying. I didn't chase her. 2 days later, Dad called with the fire and brimstone routine. You're selfish. We raised you better. I didn't even put down my welding helmet. No, I said. You raised me to expect nothing. And I hung up. But Noah? He wasn't done trying to drain me. What he did next turned everything from family drama to something dangerous. 3 weeks after Mom's lobby ambush, Noah escalated. He didn't text. He didn't call. He showed up at my job site. I was on lunch, sitting on a stack of I-beams eating a sandwich, when I saw a figure crossing the lot. Even from a distance, I recognized the posture, chin high, shoulders stiff, the posture of a man used to talking his way out of consequences. He'd aged somehow. Dark circles under his eyes. Clothes wrinkled. Beard patchy. But the entitlement? Pristine. He stopped 10 feet away. Can we talk? He said. You've got 2 minutes. He smiled like he was about to pitch me a pyramid scheme. I've got a new business idea, a restaurant concept. Fusion. Disruptive. I found the perfect location. I just need 25 grand to lock it down. I laughed. Out loud. No. His smile twitched. Billy, come on. Think of the ROI. You invest now, I cut you in for 40%. No. Something snapped then. His face twisted into something I'd never seen. You owe me. He hissed. You owe this family. You think you're better than us because you swing a torch? I stood slowly. I think I earned my life. You didn't. His nostrils flared. For the first time in his life, Noah realized he couldn't manipulate me. He couldn't charm me. He couldn't guilt me. So he chose the last trick in his arsenal. Violence. He shoved me, hard, in front of my entire crew. I stumbled but caught myself on the beam stack. Half the job site froze. Noah looked proud of himself. As if finally proving I was the problem. But here's what he didn't expect. I didn't push back. Because I wasn't losing my career over him. Big Jim, my foreman, stormed across the lot. Security followed. Within 30 seconds they were escorting Noah off the property while he shouted about betrayal, about family, about how I owed him. He looked like a man drowning who couldn't understand why no one wanted to jump in after him. After he was removed, Big Jim clapped a hand on my shoulder. Good head on your shoulders, kid. Let me know if he comes back. That night I wrote everything down. Every attempt Noah had made to get money from me. Every time he showed up somewhere he shouldn't. Every time he used my parents as pawns. And that's when the pattern became impossible to ignore. Noah wasn't just entitled. He wasn't just manipulative. He was dangerous. And I needed to protect myself. So I built a paper trail. I bought security cameras. I froze my credit. I saved copies of everything in cloud storage and a USB drive. Good thing, too. Because Noah wasn't done. He had one more desperate move left. And this time, he was coming into my home. The break-in happened on a Tuesday. Long day. 10-hour shift. My back felt like someone had welded rebar into it. I climbed the stairs to my apartment, key in hand, already fantasizing about a shower and a frozen pizza. Then I saw it. My door was cracked open. Not kicked in. Not splintered. Just slightly ajar. Like someone had slipped in quietly. The world went silent. My pulse loud as a hammer. I pressed my palm to the door and nudged it open with my boot. The place was destroyed. Drawers yanked out. Clothes dumped everywhere. Tools scattered across the floor. My bookshelf toppled. The futon cushions slashed like someone was hoping I'd hidden money inside them. But my stomach dropped when I saw the safe. The fireproof safe Grandpa left me, the one he'd kept his war medals in, dragged into the center of the room. The lid had been pried open with a crowbar. Everything inside was gone. Birth certificate. Social security card. Truck title. Welding certifications. Paperwork for the shop's sale with Peter. Even personal letters Grandpa wrote before he died. All of it. Stolen. And I knew who did it. Because only one person besides me knew where the safe was. Noah. He'd seen it when he visited once years ago, the same visit where he joked that I kept my treasures under my bed like I was 5. I walked room to room, checking closets, corners, the bathroom. Nothing. Whoever did this was long gone. Then I checked the hallway camera feed on my phone. There he was. 6:47 p.m. Gray hoodie. Same Nikes he had on when he shoved me at the job site. Walking straight to my door. No hesitation. 40 minutes later, he walked out wearing a backpack he hadn't brought in. I saved the footage in 3 places before I called the cops. When the officers arrived, Maya showed up too. She didn't say a word, just took one look at the mess, rolled up her sleeves, and started cleaning around the edges so fingerprint dust wouldn't smear. The officers were calm, professional. One of them watched the footage twice and let out a long breath. "You've got enough here for a protective order," he said. "Document everything. File tomorrow morning." I did. Temporary restraining order granted. No contact. No approaching my home. No showing up at my job. No messages through family. 200-foot distance at all times. The detective assigned to the case called 3 days later. They'd searched my parents' house. They found my birth certificate in Noah's dresser drawer. His explanation? I must have given it to him. Right. The restraining order became permanent. For the first time in my life, the law was on my side. But Noah? He didn't care. 10 days later, he violated it. Not subtle. Not clever. Just pure entitlement. He walked straight back onto my job site. In broad daylight. Screaming my name. He came back on a Wednesday. Middle of the shift. Sun high, steel beams hot enough to fry an egg, grinders screaming in every direction. I was 40 feet up on scaffolding, halfway through an overhead weld, when I heard shouting below, sharp, frantic yelling that didn't sound like job site noise. I killed the torch, lifted my helmet, and looked down. Noah. Standing in the middle of the lot. Red-faced, wild-eyed, waving his arms like a drunk at a parade. Security was already closing in, but he kept yelling up at me. "Billy! You need to fix this!" He sounded desperate, furious, humiliated, all the emotions of a man who finally realized the one person he thought he could control had slipped out of reach. I climbed down slowly, because the last thing we needed was me falling and becoming the family tragedy they could guilt me with. When I reached the ground, Noah pointed at me like he'd spotted the enemy. "You ruined me! Do you hear me? You've turned Mom and Dad against me." I laughed. I actually laughed. "They did that themselves," I said. It only made him louder. "You think you're better than me now? You think welding makes you some kind of hero? UOWUS. Security stepped between us. Big Jim stormed out of the trailer, jaw clenched, radio in hand. Half the crew had stopped working. Some guys were recording because of course they were. Noah tried to push past security. They held firm. "You're violating a restraining order," I said calmly. "So call the cops." "Do it," he screamed. "I don't have to," I said. "They're already on the way." And they were. 2 patrol cars rolled in within minutes. The moment the officers stepped out, Noah's bravado melted. His voice cracked. His hands shook. He kept saying, "This is my brother, this is family, this is a misunderstanding." But they cuffed him anyway. Violation of a protective order. Interference at a secure job site. Disturbing the peace. He screamed my name as they put him in the car. It didn't feel good. It didn't feel triumphant. It didn't feel like revenge. It felt like grief mixed with relief. Because I finally understood what Grandpa had meant when he once told me. Some people only learn when the world, not you, hands them consequences. Work resumed. Security tightened protocols. Big Jim patted my shoulder and said, "You handled that right." That night, I went back to Maya's place and fell asleep instantly, fully clothed, before my head even hit the pillow. The fallout was brutal. Mom left me 10 voicemails in one night. Dad sent a text that said, "How could you do this to your brother?" An aunt I barely knew wrote a Facebook paragraph calling me a traitor. I blocked all of them. Then I went to the courthouse and filed paperwork to extend the restraining order to include both of my parents, because they'd been acting as Noah's messengers, and I wasn't giving him loopholes. The judge didn't hesitate. For the first time in my life, I had a wall between me and the people who raised me. And behind that wall, I started to build something real. A life that was mine. A future no one could steal. But the biggest shift, the one that changed everything for good, came from someone I didn't expect. Peter. He had an offer for me. One that would turn everything upside down. 2 months after Noah's arrest, things finally felt still. Not peaceful, just still. The kind of quiet that follows a storm but still smells like rain. I was spending more nights at Maya's place than my own, partially because she slept better when I was there, partially because I did too. Then one Friday evening, Peter called. His voice was rougher than usual, like gravel under tires. "Billy," he said, "come by the shop tomorrow morning. Need to talk to you. Bring a notebook." That last part made my stomach flip. Peter wasn't a notebook man. If he needed to say something, he said it bluntly, and usually while elbow deep in an engine. The next morning, I showed up before the sun was even fully up. He was sitting at his desk in the back office, coffee in a chipped mug, papers spread across the table. He didn't look sick. He didn't look upset. He looked tired. He pushed a folder toward me. "Read." Inside were financial statements, asset lists, valuations, lease agreements, maintenance records, tool inventories, basically the shop's entire life on paper. I looked up at him. "You selling the place?" "Yeah," he said. "Doctor says my knees are about done, and I promised my wife we'd have at least 10 good years together before I fall apart completely." I exhaled. "Okay. So, who are you selling to?" He stared at me like the answer should have been obvious. "You." I actually laughed. He didn't. "Peter," I said, "I can't afford this. I'm doing well, but not buy an entire shop well. That's why," he said, leaning back. "I'm not charging you market price." I blinked. "Why me? You really asking that?" He said. "Kid, you walked in here at 17 with grease on your face and determination in your eyes. You listened. You worked. You learned. You built yourself from nothing. Men like that keep businesses alive." He paused. "Men like your brother?" he added. "They run businesses into the damn ground." The words hit harder than I expected. He slid another paper toward me. A number at the bottom. A number far lower than any sane market valuation. "This is what I'm asking," he said. "Fair. Manageable. You and I both know you'll turn this place into something bigger." I stared at the number. My hands actually shook. "It's too low," I whispered. He barked a laugh. "Then pay me back by keeping the Hollenbeck name on the sign." Something in my chest cracked open then. Not sadness. Not shock. Validation. For the first time in my life, an older man wasn't just using me. He wasn't betting against me. He wasn't picking someone else over me. He was choosing me. I looked down at the papers again. "Okay," I said. "I'll do it." Peter nodded once, like he'd been waiting years for me to say that. "Good," he said. "Darnell already agreed to come on as your partner." That hit me like a second wave. My people, actual people, had already formed around me before I even knew I needed them. Peter stood up, stretched, cracked his back like a tree splitting in winter. "We'll go through the paperwork this month," he said. "Don't screw it up." I smiled. "I won't." He pointed a grease-stained finger at me. "You will. Everyone does. Just fix it fast, and don't lie to yourself about the mistakes." I nodded. He chuckled. You're gonna do fine, kid. And for the first time since my grandfather died, I believed an adult who said that to me. Outside, I sat in my truck for a long while with the papers resting on my lap. Cars passed. People went about their mornings. The world stayed unchanged. But mine wasn't. Because I could feel it, shifted, tilted, widened. My past had been about survival. My present was about reclaiming what was stolen. But my future? That was different. My future was mine. And Noah? My parents? They were just ghosts in the rearview. Or so I thought. Because a week later, one of those ghosts found a way to claw back into my life. With a letter that started with, "We heard you're buying the shop. We need to talk." The letter was waiting on my doorstep. Not in the mailbox, on the floor in front of my door, slid under like some cheap horror movie calling card. No envelope. Just a folded piece of paper with my name written in my mother's handwriting. My stomach tightened. Maya was beside me. She stared down at it, jaw tense. "You don't have to open that," she said. I knew she was right. But I also knew exactly what would happen if I ignored it. The next letter would come. Then another. Then a voicemail. Then a surprise visit. Then another boundary violated. So I picked it up. Inside, 3 sentences. "We heard you're buying the shop. We need to talk. You're doing well now, and it's only fair you help us get back on our feet. Please don't make this harder than it needs to be. Mom." Fair. The word punched me right in the ribs. Fair was draining my college fund. Fair was watching Noah get rewarded for failure. Fair was being told I wasn't worth investing in. Fair was them only knocking on my door when they needed something. Maya watched my face shift. She didn't even have to ask. She just said, "What do you want to do?" I folded the letter once, twice, 3 times until it was no bigger than a matchbox. Then I dropped it straight into the trash. "I'm done," I said quietly. They made their choices. I meant it. But they weren't done making mine for me. The next attempt came from Noah. A restricted number called me at 11:42 p.m. I let it ring. He called again. And again. Then the text started, routed through apps that bypass blocking. "I heard about the shop. Good for you. Maybe we can partner? You owe me. Call me back. I need that money now." Partner. Money. Oh. Same 3 notes in his broken record. Maya took my phone gently out of my hand and set its screen down on the counter. "Billy," she said softly, "you don't have to carry that anymore. That's not your family. That's your past." I wanted to believe that. I almost did. But the truth was uglier. My family had stopped seeing me as a son a long time ago. I was an account. An asset. A salvageable resource. And now that their golden boy had collapsed, they were clawing at the nearest lifeline. Me. The next morning, I found Dad on my porch. Not knocking. Not waiting. Just standing there, arms crossed, like he still had any authority over the life I'd built. "You buying the shop?" he asked without greeting. "That's none of your business." He scoffed. "Everything you have is because of how we raised you." I stepped past him toward my truck. "Funny. I remember you telling me I wouldn't amount to much." He bristled. "You're being dramatic. We need help. That's what family does." I turned, leaned on the hood, and looked him dead in the eye. "No," I said flatly. "That's what I did. Alone. Without a cent from you. Without support. Without belief. You don't get to come back now and pretend we were a team." His face twisted. "You think you're better than us because you got lucky with a job and a girlfriend." "Not lucky," I cut in. "Just not self-destructive." He stepped forward. "Your mother is suffering. Noah is sick. He needs treatment. We can't afford it. Then sell the BMW he shouldn't have. Sell the electronics you bought him. Sell the dream you gambled everything on. Dad's voice hardened into ice. You're really gonna let your family drown? That's not my family, I said. Not anymore. For the first time in my life, I saw something break in him. Not sadness. Recognition. He finally understood I wasn't coming back. Not to dinners. Not to guilt. Not to the role they carved out for me. He opened his mouth, searching for a last weapon. A last manipulative hook. Nothing came. He just swallowed and said, You'll regret this. I regret staying as long as I did. I got in my truck and drove off. He didn't chase me. But the storm wasn't over. That afternoon, Maya called while I was at the shop with Peter. Billy, she said, voice low. You need to come home now. My heart dropped. What happened? She exhaled shakily. Your mom showed up. And she brought someone with her. Who? Maya hesitated. Your grandmother. My blood went cold. Because there was only one person in the entire family I still cared about. And only one person who could make this messy again. And now they dragged her into it. My grandmother, Dad's mom, the only truly decent person in that entire bloodline, was standing in the hallway of Maya's apartment building, wringing her hands like she'd been dragged into a courtroom. She looked small. Too small. Her cardigan hung off her shoulders. Her hair, usually pinned neatly, was loose like someone rushed her out the door. And behind her, like a shadow with a pulse, stood my mother. Maya stayed between them and the door, arms crossed, protective and impossibly steady. The moment I stepped out of the elevator, Grandma's face lit with relief and guilt. She lifted a trembling hand. Billy, sweetheart, your mother said you were in trouble. I had to come. My jaw clenched. That was the oldest trick in my parents' book. When they wanted to manipulate me, they sent the only person I loved more than myself. Grandma, I said softly, you shouldn't be here. My mother stepped forward to answer for her, voice sharp and righteous like she'd practiced in the car. We need to talk. As a family. Maya didn't move, didn't flinch. Then talk from there. Mom's lips tightened. This doesn't concern you. It concerns me, Maya said. When you show up uninvited and scare the person I love, you stay right where you are. Grandma winced. Please don't fight. I approached slowly, keeping my distance, keeping the hallway wide open, because distance was safety now. What did she tell you? I asked my grandmother. She hesitated, eyes flicking toward my mother. That you were planning to abandon the family. That you're shutting everyone out. That no one needs help and you're the only one who can stop things from getting worse. Translation. Mom weaponized Grandma's empathy like a crowbar. Grandma, I said, they haven't told you what happened, have they? Her brow furrowed. They said you exaggerated. That you're angry. That you didn't mean to get Noah arrested. My mother snapped. He chose to punish his own brother. Over money. The hallway cooled by 10 degrees. I looked at her fully for the first time. No, I said. I protected myself because your son broke into my home, stole my documents, stalked me at work, violated a restraining order, and attacked me in public. Grandma's hand flew to her mouth. He what? Mom's face flushed, anger, embarrassment, fear, all tangled into something ugly. That's not how we see it, she said. That's because you don't want to see it. Grandma stepped back from my mother, subtly but definitively. How could you not tell me this? She whispered. My mother sputtered. We didn't want to worry you. You dragged me here for that reason, Grandma said, voice trembling not from age but fury. Not for truth. For leverage. Mom's mouth snapped shut. For the first time in my entire life, she looked powerless. Grandma turned to me again, eyes full of sadness but also clarity. Billy, do you want us here? The simplest question. The most important one. And finally, I answered honestly. No, I said. I don't. Grandma nodded as if she already knew. She stepped forward, ignoring my mother's gasp, and pulled me into a hug, gentle, careful, but full of every ounce of warmth she ever gave me. "You don't know anyone your peace," she whispered. "Not even blood." Then she stepped back, looked Maya in the eyes, and said, "You take good care of him." Maya smiled faintly. "Always." My mother opened her mouth, but Grandma didn't let her speak. "We're leaving," she said firmly. Mom sputtered. "Mother." Not another word. And for the first time in my life, my needs outweighed Mom's theatrics. Grandma took her by the arm, turned her around, and walked her down the hallway. My mother kept glancing back at me, stunned, like she didn't understand how she'd lost control of a game she invented. When they reached the elevator, Grandma gave me a small, sad smile. Then they were gone. I let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. Maya slid her hand into mine. "That," she said softly, "was a turning point." But I knew something else. It was also a warning shot. My parents had thrown their biggest weapon at me, and it failed. Which meant the next move they made would be bold, desperate, and reckless. And I was right. Because 3 days later, a letter arrived from a lawyer. The letter from the lawyer wasn't a lawsuit. It wasn't a demand for money. It was something far stranger. A petition for mandated family mediation, filed by my parents, naming me as the estranged dependent whose withdrawal has caused financial and emotional hardship. They were trying to drag me into a legal room so they could perform victimhood in front of a moderator. I brought the letter to my own attorney. He skimmed it once, snorted, and said, "This is laughable. They have no standing. You're an independent adult. They cannot compel mediation or financial support. Decline formally, block all contact, and walk away." So I did. My attorney filed a response stating I wanted no mediation, no involvement, and no contact. The mediator dismissed their petition in under 20 minutes. That was the last attempt they ever made. A week later, Grandma called Maya, not me. She respected the boundary, and sent a simple message. "Tell him I love him. Tell him I'm proud. Tell him I understand." That was enough. When the shop sale closed, Peter handed me the keys with a grin that said more than any speech could. Darnell slapped my back so hard I almost fell over. Maya brought coffee and kissed me in front of the news sign like she claimed the space right along with me. I stood in that shop, my shop, breathing in the smell of metal and oil and possibility, and realized something I never expected. I wasn't angry anymore. Not because they deserved forgiveness, they didn't. Not because trauma fades, it rarely does. But because I'd built a life so solid, so earned, so mine, that their voices couldn't reach me anymore. My family's downfall wasn't my victory. My success wasn't their punishment. The two stories simply stopped intersecting. And that was the real freedom. That night, I locked up the shop alone. The metal door rolled down with a satisfying thunder, sealing the past out and the future in. Maya met me in the parking lot, leaning against my truck. "Ready to go home?" she asked. "Yeah," I said, and meant it more than I ever had. As we drove away, the shop's sign glowed in the mirror. Hollenbeck Structural Works. Owner, Billy Carter. A name no one could erase. A life no one could steal. A future no one could claim except me. And that was the ending I fought for.